Okay, how is this? Okay.
Rookie mistakes. Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening. So glad everyone came. We have some people coming in now. And interim minister Swamini is going to test. Okay. Okay, we'll wait here. Let's see, maybe in half a minute.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to a very, very special evening. I am so glad you're here. We are all so glad you're here because there is so much good we can do together. Thank you to Greg Palast for your timeless investigative reporting, for creating the film we're about to see, and for joining us today. And thank you to Patrice back there, Patrice Gallagher, Darren Howard, raise your hand, and Jean Schaefer, if you could raise your hand as well, for your amazing efforts in making this evening happen. So my friends, in the face of rapidly advancing authoritarianism, it is crucial that we focus on the pillars that are holding up the regime. And this film brings a much needed lens to the suppression of voting rights. This is not new, but under this regime, they are being boldly attacked. They are saying the quiet parts out loud now. They are saying the quiet parts out loud. And now we must be loud and strategic in our resistance. So on behalf of our congregation and our newly formed, get this name, I love this name, Unitarian Universalist Church of Hinsdale Sacred Resistance Initiative. We welcome you. On behalf of Reverend Beth Johnson, who is with the monks right now, we all say, please enjoy this film and remember that together we are more than we could ever be alone. And so now I would like to request the wonderful, the amazing Greg Palast to join us to share some opening words.
Okay, thank you, Swamini. I don't know about the great Greg Palast, but Greg Palast is here, and you can tell from my hat that I'm an investigative reporter. And I really want to thank the Universalist Unitarian Church of Hinsdale for hosting this wonderful gathering, and Reverend Beth and her team. And I also want to thank Northwest Suburbs Organized for Action Indivisible. And for those of you who are hosting the online event, which we are simultaneously broadcasting nationwide. So if you are here and have gotten your popcorn, at the end of the film, which is an hour and 7 minutes, we will take your questions written on index cards, which you're going to pass out. If you're online, all you have to do is put your questions in the chat box. And you're about to see my film, Vigilantes Inc., America's new vote suppression hitmen, which unfortunately is as relevant as it's ever been. And so you will, if you want to know what's happening in Fulton County and that raid, I'm going to take you to Fulton County and show you about the raid. Now afterwards, I'll be joined by the extraordinarily lovely and talented Richard Chu of WCPT, Chicago's Progressive Talk, and equally lovely and extraordinary Robert McKay of WVAM, Talk of Chicago, and we'll be answering your questions that you send up. If you're, and for those watching online, we are broadcasting from Chicagoland, or as the locals call it, the occupied territories. And I will, it's pretty grim. So if we don't laugh, if you don't laugh at this during this film and you don't cry, I'll pay for your therapy. In the meantime, can we get the house lights down? And my buddy Martin Sheen and producer will be introducing the film for you. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Martin Sheen. Now, you may or may not be shocked to learn that there is a real threat to the 2024 election, but I can guarantee you will be shocked by the film you are about to see that exposes in no uncertain terms the full extent of that threat. The film is called Vigilantes Inc., and it follows the heroic investigative reporter Greg Palast as he uncovers a group of 40,000 MAGA volunteers whose efforts have already challenged the voting rights of 851,000 eligible voters with a goal of 2 million by November 5th. And nearly all of them are voters of color. Of course, all of this is just a new form of an old Jim Crow tactic first used in 1946 by the Ku Klux Klan to deny ballots to black voters. Only this time, they are using AI tricks and disinformation to deny ballots to blacks, Hispanics, and Asian American citizens. There is so little time left before the election, so I urge you to get involved by joining this heroic effort to expose voter suppression. And remember, one vote can change an election, and one heart with courage is a majority. Thanks again.
Is this an attempt to remove a lot of Democrats, black people from voting?
Get out of my house now.
I'm Greg.
Where are you from?
I'm from L.A.
L.A.?
I hate to say
You're
it.
from Lower Alabama. That's what we call L.A. around here. I'm going to L.A.
And so, why do you come out?
Just to support support the Confederacy, you know what I mean? Yeah. Support our history.
And so what do you say, our history, do you see yourself as American history or Confederate history?
Confederate history. Confederate history.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, you can't accept the loss. It was 150 years ago. When are you guys going to give up?
No, we ain't never going to give up. This house shall rise again.
When? Next Thursday?
Yeah, they did. They rose up. Yeah.
Okay, so what is this again?
The Georgia secession flag.
It's the Georgia secession flag. So this was Georgia's own state flag.
And some people called it the Georgia Republic flag because Georgia was an independent republic for 26 days before they joined the Confederacy.
This should be your future flag?
That's what that man over there said.
Yeah. What do you think?
I agree with him. I agree with him. The way things is going, we're going to have to do something.
So is it time to
I think it's time
rebel
to
again?
It's time to do something. Time to do something. If we don't get it back in November, well, we need to try to elect the right officials into government office. We need to get rid of wokeism, cancel culture, and all these things that's killing America.
Do you think that you can get a fair election in Georgia?
Well, I think now we can, hopefully. Yeah.
Why now? What's changed?
The voter laws.
So I'm down in Georgia with these grown men dressed up for Civil War, and they're all excited about this new voting law in Georgia, a law they're certain will allow the South to rise again. The law is called SB 202, and it's 98 pages of breathtaking obstacles to voting. I mean, they've made mail-in voting nearly illegal. They've shuttered ballot drop boxes. They've cut Sunday black souls to the polls day. And if you hand someone a slice of pizza or a bottle of water while they're waiting in line for 5 hours, you'll be charged with a felony crime. I'm not kidding. In Georgia, pizza is an act of civil disobedience. I've been covering vote suppression for The Guardian, BBC, Rolling Stone for 2 decades, and I've never seen anything like it. But what shook me up? I'm going through the bill, and I see a landmine planted in it. It's barely noticeable. For the first time in Georgia history, any voter can challenge an unlimited number of other voters and stop their ballots from being counted. And when I say unlimited, I mean unlimited. Our team contacted all 159 counties in Georgia. Muskogee County tells us 4,000 voters were challenged. In Cobb County, it was 48,000 voters challenged.
My husband is a huge Disney fan. Oh, geez. Tom, you should have moved our ammo. There's our ammo. So my name is Pamela Reardon. I am currently 6th District Committee woman to the state party. So the last 2 years, I hit over 10,000 doors for President Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Did President Trump really lose the state of Georgia?
No.
Tell me why. Why do you think that?
Because I know for sure that voters have voted here and do not live here.
I got to give you this. This is, do you know this woman? Do you recognize that woman?
Not offhand.
You don't recognize her?
No, but
do you recognize?
If they were taking pictures with me with them, I mean.
I'm not gonna blame you if you took a picture with her. She's a very nice person.
I don't know. I don't.
Her name is Tamara Horn. Do you know Tamara? You don't know any Tamara?
I don't. The name's not familiar.
You're absolutely certain you don't.
I don't.
You never spoke to her?
No. No.
What about this guy and his wife on his honeymoon? See, there he is, just so the camera could see that he's on his honeymoon. But do you recognize that man?
No.
Interesting name. His name is Storm Saul.
And I suppose he was on the list.
Yeah. Did you ever speak to Storm Saul?
No, I told you already. I did not speak to the 32,000 people.
But okay. Well.
I can't even follow up on my own people that are calling all the time.
So you never call them, but you challenge the right to vote?
I'd have to go back and look at the list.
Explain that story. In fact, if I get the math right, you made 2 challenges. You challenged 32,379 voters, said don't count their ballots, or you know.
No, just send them a letter to come in and prove that they live still in Georgia at that address.
Okay, I have a piece of paper from you. This is what you filed with the county, which said you are challenging
her right to have her ballot counted.
No, I'm not.
It says right here, accept this letter as a challenge to these electors' eligibility to vote. Signed, Pamela Reardon.
I can't go through 32,000 people. I was handed the list.
Wait, you can't go through 32,000, excuse me.
Through the vote, vetted these.
Have you ever heard of the Ku Klux Klan
Okay,
law of
so
18...
this...
Have you heard of the Ku Klux Klan law of 1871?
I'm from Canada.
So you don't know the Ku Klux Klan law?
I'm from Canada.
Clearly you don't know Georgia law. The Ku Klux Klan law of 1871.
Get out.
Do you believe this woman shouldn't have her vote counted?
That has nothing to do with it.
Is this an attempt to remove a lot of Democrats, black people from voting to win the election?
I am far from that, sir. And you have crossed the line. You have crossed the line. Get out of my house now.
I shall get out of your house
before
now.
I throw you.
And you are sure that this is your legal voting address?
You are an asshole.
Thank you. They do have a rifle right next to the door, so believe me, I wasn't going to overstay my welcome. So we phoned about 800 of these allegedly illegal voters, and they were shocked. First, what do you mean my right to vote is being challenged? And what do you mean I don't live where I live? We added it up, and more than 250,000 Georgians are facing a challenge to their vote by these vigilante vote challengers, 88 of them. Now, one of them likes to dress up like, well, a vigilante.
This is a it's a Ruger new Vaquero. It's a single action. I got it stuck in there where it won't fall out. So. I am Alton Russell from Columbus, Georgia. I am the Georgia Telltale. And I'm a toilet paper salesman, the way I make my living. Wiping up. Right now, I'm the chairman of the Columbus-Muskogee Republican Party, and I serve on the state committee and the state executive committee for the Georgia State Republican Party. So I'm pretty involved in that, which I think is the right. Let's see, that would be the right way to be, and also I'm on the right.
Apparently, you had filed some challenges to 4,000 voters.
Yes.
No ballot. No ballot in the mail, called to register, and the announcement there was, Mr. Turner, you have been challenged.
Major Gamaliel Turner is the military's expert on warfare of the future.
I project weapons and capabilities out to the future. You know, for me, it's all about the survival of the soldier.
Assigned to Port Hueneme in California.
So you're telling me 2,600 miles away, 2 days or 3 days before an election, that if I want to vote, all I have to do is show up and prove as an American citizen that I have the right to vote again? You talk to fools like that. You talk to fools like that. I'm not a fool. You can't compel somebody to say, oh, you can vote. I'm trying to vote now. How are you going to put these other things like, it's no more than a poll tax. It's no more than how many pieces of bubble gum are in this jar. It's the same thing over and over, just modernized and reviewed.
So it's an old Jim Crow tax.
It's the same thing. But I know what it looks like, because I was there.
Indeed, he was there. Major Turner comes from an illustrious civil rights family. His father, Reverend Harold Turner, founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference alongside Reverends Ralph Abernathy and Martin Luther King.
A lot of the meetings, private meetings, coordinating meetings was done at our house. Martin was there, Reverend Abernathy was there.
They were just like friends and family and people coming in. We're sitting here at this table, but I'm gonna tell you, this table had papers on it. This was a working table.
Speaking from the pulpit, I had an opportunity to change some lives. Did I take that opportunity wisely? I think I did.
Oh, looks like you did.
You baptized me.
Wow.
So, they mean.
The modern civil rights movement that was born right here at this dining room table would lead to the passage of the Voting Rights Act and change America's heart and soul. A revolution planned right here because the Turner House was strategically located between the King and Abernathy homes. So the leadership could cross through a series of backyards and not be seen for their safety.
This is a hideout.
They slowly but surely, one at a time, a 5 or 10 minute gap between each other, will come through the backyards and sit.
Bless this house, O Lord.
He remembers praying.
Stand it on solid ground.
Praying they wouldn't be arrested or beaten on their way back home.
Son, let the Lord in.
Yes, it was a very scary conversation about what they were about to do.
His mother taught at a grammar school until 1960, when it was dynamited by segregationists.
It was tough. It was tough. It was tough. Being black.
How did you feel when they said, you've been challenged?
I was angry. I was fearful. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Not my country. Not now. Not this day and time. It was just hard to accept. It was hard to accept. Excuse me.
And behind the challenge to Major Turner,
I blow up government spending. My chainsaw's ready.
behind the vigilante law, is this man.
I got a big truck, just in case I need to round up criminal illegals and take them home myself. Yep, I just said that. I'm Brian Kemp. If you want a politically incorrect conservative, that's me.
I've been investigating vote suppression for decades. But for each of the last 9 years, my investigations always end up in Georgia, ever since this Brian Kemp became Secretary of State. Here's an example. Leading up to the 2016 presidential election, Rolling Stone wants me to investigate a scheme that's removing thousands of voters that are voting in 2 states. Well, voting twice is a crime, so they're knocking off these thousands of voters. But where do they get the lists of double voters? I find that Brian Kemp is sharing his voter rolls with another Secretary of State, a guy in Kansas named Chris Kobach. Kobach is Donald Trump's special vote fraud hunter. Kobach takes Kemp's list of voters and cross-checks it against the voter rolls in 24 states, and they're scrubbing literally hundreds of thousands of double voters from the rolls. All these criminals. So I get my hands on Kemp's little secret list, and guess what? The double voters all have names like Jose Garcia, James Brown. In fact, in Georgia, they claim that this James Brown voted 288 times. I'm looking closely at the lists and realizing that almost none of the middle names match. They didn't care. They got rid of thousands of Jose Garcias in 24 states. And while I'm in Georgia, I stopped at the Ebenezer Baptist Church, you know, Martin Luther King's old church, and I run into the leader of the Democrats in the state legislature.
My deep concern is that this is one more attempt to purge voters unlawfully and without adequate information, as opposed to what a Secretary of State should be committed to, which is enfranchising voters to the best of his ability.
And while I was at the church, I also showed the Kemp hit list to the minister.
So far, there's been very little evidence produced to show the basis for all of these voter ID laws, cutting voting in half. This is voter suppression, pure and simple.
In 2018, I'm sent back down to Georgia because this time Kemp has removed a breathtaking 500,000 voters from the voter rolls. He says they don't live in Georgia anymore. Okay, you don't live in Georgia, you shouldn't vote in Georgia. So I get Kemp's new hit list and give it to the same experts who tell Amazon and Google where you live. Believe me, they know where you live. The experts run Kemp's list through their computer, and they tell me here are 300,000 40,134 voters who still live at their legal voting address. In 2018, Kemp is Secretary of State, so he's in charge of the voting. So he knocks off all these legal voters while he's running for governor. I tried every way conceivable to talk to Kemp about the voter purges, including filing a lawsuit. I finally caught up with him at a pig roast.
Mr. Kemp, are you removing black voters from the voter rolls just so you can win this election? Sir, why do we have to sue you to get the names of voters who've been removed? Why are you...
You know, we use the wonderfully polite term voter suppression. But come on, when your car gets stolen, you don't say, my car's been suppressed, my car's been suppressed. It's been stolen. Your right to vote's been stolen. Now, I'm talking all these numbers, like 340,000 voters, 48,000 voters, 32,000 voters. But it's not just numbers. I've been to the polls, and I've been there when these Americans are told, go away. You can't vote here anymore.
Has this ever happened to you before?
Never.
And it's horrible. She's been in this community back when when they were doing sit-ins. She held civil rights meetings in her home. And today to come out and not be able to vote and no one can give you an explanation, like, it's extremely emotional and it bothers me. It bothers me to my core. Like, there's actually no record of her whatsoever voting in any election whatsoever, and it's ridiculous. I'm sorry.
The next day, I went over to her home. The home Kemp said she no longer lives in.
Yes, Jesus, love me. Yes, Jesus, love me. Yes, Jesus, love me.
I'm given her age. I asked her if she ever met Martin Luther King. And she said, yeah. He had Sunday dinners here. He was my cousin.
Daddy King was my great uncle.
So, you know, when I grew up around, like, constantly hearing about the civil rights movement and everything that people have done for us to get this power, and to know that it was taken away from my grandmother, like, next year it could be taken away from me. Like, you never know. And I was just really hurt. And I really couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. Since I was about 5, I've been going with her to vote. Every year, like, religiously. And she always made sure I got my voter sticker. You gotta get your sticker.
So it's like you were disappeared, like you were not even a person anymore.
That's what I said. I was dead and gone, buried. But I'm still on top of the earth by the hip of the master.
Now, what could possibly be the excuse for canceling the votes of Christine Jordan, Major Turner? The politician's excuse is always the same: voter fraud.
Evidence of voter fraud.
We have numerous double voters.
Millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks.
The truth is, they want voter fraud. Voter fraud. Voter fraud.
We have numerous out-of-state voters.
California, Georgia, Indiana, Alabama, Washington, and so many other states.
The deceased casting ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen.
Well, elections are more important than necklaces, but for some reason, we don't act that way.
It's a fraud.
Now, President Trump claimed there were thousands of illegal voters in Georgia. Where did Trump get this crazy idea?
I led the fight to aggressively investigate all allegations of voter fraud.
Stop voter fraud. Stop potential voter fraud.
Kemp arrested dozens. He's accused thousands. He's canceled the registrations of over 500,000 suspect voters, but not one, not a single voter has been convicted of attempting to cast an illegal ballot. Now, I'm not saying there's no fraud ever. Out of several billion, and I mean billion ballots cast in the past decade in America, there are a few cheats.
These 3 retirees from the Villages are charged with voter fraud. Prosecutors say they cast multiple ballots during last year's presidential election.
Joan Halstead, Jay Setzik, and John Ryder were all registered Republicans at the time.
One side screaming voter fraud, and the other side they're actually finding people that's committed voter fraud. I think that's a little hilarious.
But when Trump and Kemp talk about voters stuffing ballot boxes, they don't mean white voters. It's an old story. 100 years ago, there was a Ku Klux Klan propaganda film called Birth of a Nation. It showed a white actor in blackface sneaking in an extra ballot. film was a huge hit. It was screened at the White House. And it convinced Americans that you had to have all these restrictions on black people or they'll commit voter fraud. Now today, there's a new film.
2,000 Mules, live from Mar-a-Lago in Florida. Former President Donald Trump, live on SalemNewsChannel.com.
It's the new birth of a nation. And once again, it says that black men, by the thousands, commit voter fraud. They vote several times.
This particular individual we have in a number of different locations. He's actually a mule. He gets out, approaches the box. When people walk up with intention to cheat, they look around, they basically walk fairly quickly, they try to stuff him in, they try to get out of there. In this case, he drops a few on the ground, pick them up, stuff them into the box. And then he hustles back and hustles out of there. So this is what it looks like.
All I see is a black guy putting a couple of ballots into a drop box. You know, folks drop in their family's ballots too, which Georgia law encourages. Now dig this. Every single drop box in Georgia has a security camera on it. And the 2,000 Mules guys say this voter has dumped ballots in 27 drop boxes, and they have the videotapes. But oddly, they don't show the 27 videotapes. They show the same tape over and over.
He needs a shoehorn. This is a smoking gun. This is O.J. Simpson being seen leaving the scene of the crime.
But they tell you they have something better than videotape.
What we're going to show you now, what kicks it up a notch is that we have the geospatial data to support the video.
They've got a very fancy scientific method to nail these black ballot stuffers. It's called geo-tracking. They track millions of cell phones. It's very scientific. They show satellites up in the sky and computer lights flashing back and forth, and these mules going from drop box to drop box. I mean, it's pretty convincing, unless you know something about geo-tracking, which is that you can't get closer than about 93 feet. So anyone within 93 feet of a drop box is a mule. Now, who would go by these same drop boxes every day? Well, how about we change the name of the film from 2,000 Mules to 2,000 Mailmen? So, did you see O.J. Simpson leaving the scene of the crime?
But let me tell you what I saw. You know, this is the complexity and the nuance of racism in America. That by the very presence of who he is, he's considered guilty. Because in the dehumanizing of black people, who the hell is he to think that he has a right to vote? The truth didn't matter. What they want was the image. And just them showing up alone constitutes something fishy and criminal-like is happening. That is the greater issue. And then to call a human being a mule.
Yeah.
A man who literally is getting out his car, doing his democratic duty to go vote, and to refer to him as a mule. I mean, full stop. Where do we go from there?
So who came up with this 2,000 Mules film? It's an outfit called True the Vote. You may recall their other handiwork.
Let me explain.
Yeah, go ahead.
Those lists come from True the Vote.
Who's True the Vote?
They're out of Texas, and they work on this constantly, and they've been doing it for over 10 years.
This is the crew out of Texas that targeted Major Turner. And they're the hitmen behind mass attacks on hundreds of thousands of voters from Missouri to Pennsylvania. I hunted down the source of True the Vote's cash to Milwaukee, to the doorstep of their uber right-wing billionaire backers, the Bradley Family Foundation. Now, the Bradley Foundation's secretary is Cleta Mitchell, Donald Trump's attorney, who directed his scheme to overturn the election.
It was about fraud. This election was rigged.
She's now created yet another army of vigilantes, supposedly using artificial intelligence, a program called Eagle AI. Based on spurious evidence, they've already challenged thousands of innocent voters. In 2021, Mitchell was hauled before Congress over her role in instigating the January 6th insurrection.
Brian Kemp didn't invent the voter vigilantes. The challenge game goes back to 1942 to a character named Eugene Talmadge. Talmadge was the Ku Klux Klan's candidate for governor. In a statewide radio address, Talmadge said, "Wise Negroes will stay away from the white folks' ballot boxes." But Franklin Roosevelt, Talmadge's nemesis, had promised black soldiers returning from World War II that they'd have the right to vote. So, to cover his tracks, Talmadge rebranded the Klan as a corporation.
The name the Klan chose for itself? Vigilantes Inc.
Its sole purpose was to remove black voters from the rolls, and they did. FBI files reveal that the entire list of Negro registrants was challenged. By removing thousands of black voters, Vigilantes Inc. succeeded in electing Talmadge to the governor's mansion.
Well, we had lots of fun out of the campaign. You know, in this campaign, they accused me of practically everything except a capital offense.
But there was a capital offense.
The FBI came here to Monroe to investigate Governor Talmadge and the Vigilantes Inc. mass challenge of black voters. In response, that very week, 2 black veterans and their wives were taken out and shot. That's quite a warning to any black person who would dare vote.
In 1946, unlike today, the mass challenge of black voters was ruled illegal.
Today's vigilantes have simply taken the Klan plan and shot it into cyberspace.
Talmadge's vigilantes had to write down the name of every voter they challenged. The new GOP vigilantes have gone digital, replacing white sheets with spreadsheets. They challenged thousands of voters with a single email. The FBI recommended Talmadge be indicted, but the governor was saved from prison when he had a fatal collision with a bottle of bourbon.
You could expect anything from Gene Talmadge, because to begin with, Gene Talmadge was an alcoholic. He was probably 2/3 drunk 2/3 of the time he was in office. At the age 13 or 14, I was working as a bartender. I worked at the Henry Rader Hotel, and that's where he would do his drinking. And they would come by the hotel and get him and take him out as a dead person on a cot and take him back to the governor's mansion.
With Talmadge dying, Joe Turner was able to vote.
That was the first year that Georgia opened the voting up to blacks. And we all went down to register. You see, they asked you to write a line of the Constitution. She said, right, there shall be no imprisonment for debt.
So she kind of gave you the answer.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So you cheated.
No. I followed the instructions.
I see, okay.
75 years after Joe Turner won his right to vote, he learned that Kemp had denied the ballot to his nephew, the Major, using the same method employed by Talmadge.
In 2014, the group founded by Stacey Abrams registered 89,000 voters, mostly young black students, but 40,000 somehow didn't show up on the voter registry.
And so we approached the Secretary of State and said, hey, what's up with these 40,000 missing voters? And they responded with launching a criminal investigation into the New Georgia Project and the work that we do, alleging that we somehow are illegally or improperly registering voters.
And we're just not going to put up with fraud. I mean, we have zero tolerance for that in Georgia. So we opened an investigation and served some subpoenas.
Charges were never filed, but 40,000 voters missed the election.
Hey.
Greg Palast.
Hey, Greg.
Around that time, I also met with a cheerful group that had launched a campaign called 10,000 Koreans Vote. Now, for 10,000 Koreans to vote, they had to register 10,000 Koreans.
And the way we do it is people fill out their card, kind of like a dentist appointment. Later on, we'll put a stamp here, we'll chop this off, and this goes in the mail to them.
But their lawyer, Helen Ho, contacts Kemp's office and says, hey, why don't we see our voters on the rolls? Kemp's response?
Police department, search warrant! Open the door!
He sent in the RoboCops to raid the group's office and threatened these elderly Koreans with long prison sentences. Of course, the charges were tossed out, but that was the end of 10,000 Koreans Vote, which was the point. But Kemp's not done. As I speak, he claims that the group Stacey Abrams started recently handed in some registration forms a couple of days late. Now, for this picayune clerical matter, Kemp is demanding that the Attorney General arrest the group's leaders and send them to prison for 10 years or more.
Absolutely. They want to put us under the jail. It stinks of desperation, and it seeps through everything that they do, and it often comes along with the threat of violence. We are talking about a Secretary of State that went after college students. They raided a voter registration office and tried to send all of these college kids to jail and came against them with criminal actions, right? And the penalty for what they call voter registration fraud in Georgia, it carries with it a penalty of up to $10,000 in fines and 10 years in prison per form.
I again was doing what I do, talking to people everywhere I see them at. Hey, have you voted?
Ms. Pearson?
Yeah. Not everybody likes that I'm doing it.
Olivia Pearson's mother led the county's NAACP.
My mother sued the city of Douglas to get more representation on the city council.
After years of registration drives, Olivia became the first Black woman to win election to the council.
When I received the letter in 2016 from the Secretary of State signed by Brian Kemp.
Kemp used his power as head of the state election board to have Olivia charged with the felony crime of interfering with voters.
I could have served up to 5 years in prison. So it was very, very, very frightening. It was very depressing. I had to go and receive counseling to help me to cope with it. It was horrendous.
A jury quickly found her not guilty because, as it turned out, disabled voters had filled out the official forms requesting her help.
They had the handcuffs around my back, you know, my hands to the back. I couldn't get into the car with them like that. I was in excruciating pain.
The New York Times wrote that Olivia's case made Brian Kemp a pioneer of present-day voter suppression.
The young lady that I was with at the time, she told me, she said, "Miss Olivia, I don't even want to vote. After all of this, I don't want to vote anymore. I don't want to do it." And I had to beg her and explain to her that that's what they're doing it for, is to cause people to be afraid to exercise the right to vote.
From his very first year as Georgia's voting chief, Brian Kemp literally ordered armed seizures. He sent the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Georgia's own version of the FBI, to Quitman, Georgia, to arrest 10 newly elected members of the school board. The first Black members on the board, arresting teachers, including 2 PhDs. Kemp accused them of stuffing tampered ballots into mailboxes. That same old accusation as in 2000 Mules. Kemp had them paraded in handcuffs and orange suits like they were terrorists at Guantanamo. Local journalist George Boston Rhines has closely tracked the case.
I'm George Boston Rhines, and I'm in Quitman, Georgia. And I am immediately, just got down here. These are the Quitman 10. This is what I do.
After 4 years of prison over their heads, the Quitman 10 were acquitted of every charge.
So much stress was on those people. Lula Smart even considered taking her own life.
With all the indictment that I had, in my mind, I thought, well, if I just commit suicide, this will be over.
Another suffered from lupus.
Latasha Head, she died, and I interviewed her father, and he said that he believed that his daughter's death was a result of the stress and pressure brought about by Secretary of State Brian P. Kemp.
Rhines explained that the persecution of the Quitman 10 brought up traumatic memories of the lynching of 12 Black men in 1918, what is called the Week of Terror. When Mary Turner raised her voice about the execution of her husband by vigilantes, they came after her.
Oh, wow.
Where are we? Can you tell me what we're about to do?
This is the old Brooks County Jail. This is where all of the equipment And this is where all of the men that were arrested during that week of terror in May of 18 would have been housed in this jail before they was lynched. This is my first time ever coming into this place. I've heard some horror stories about this place. In May of 1918, Mary Turner was lynched. They took her, she was 9 months pregnant, turned her upside down, riddled her body with bullets. A white mob member took a hog knife, ripped over her abdomen, and out fell an 8-month-old fetus. And when that fetus fell to the ground, the white mob member took the heel of his boot and crushed that baby's head.
Even today, the memory of Mary Turner is a political battlefield. The plaque commemorating her was shot up so often, it had to be removed.
We're getting up every day, working as hard as we can to make sure that Stacey Abrams is not going to be our governor or your next president. What a great night to be in Georgia there, Mike. He was a builder, worked hard, started from scratch. He's a self-made man.
At least that's the story he sells, that he rose from a humble little cabin in the woods.
Their 3 daughters grew up here.
I need to get on that tractor right now and cut that pasture right there.
That little house, it was one more gift from his father-in-law, insurance mogul state rep Bob Argo. A Georgia political powerhouse. We discovered a trove of documents telling a very different story from Kemp's invented history. They reveal that Brian Porter Kemp comes from a long line of privilege and property. His millions arrived early, yet no one seems to ask, how did some kid out of college end up with a big construction company? The old-fashioned way. He joined his daddy's and grandpa's well-connected company. They cashed in early on building student housing. To make way for their buildings, the land had to be cleared of the black homeowners on it.
Front door would have been right along in here. And you opened the door and you walked into what we call the front room, because it didn't have 3 rooms. And all of us children slept in the middle room. We loved it. We would wake up on Saturdays mornings and whatever's on our minds, and we'd end up in pillow fights. Pillow fights until our daddy said, cut it out. And the men in the community built us a house, not knowing that it was an urban renewal zone. Urban renewal, it was burnt down. On the family survey form, it said the fire department training burned it down.
Wait, the fire department used your new house as training for the fire department by burning your new house down?
Some houses were burned down, some was pushed down.
Or bulldozed them with just hours' notice. How Brian Kemp always ended up with the golden shovel is explained by 4-term Congressman John Barrow. Barrow served on a local housing commission with Kemp.
While he was on that committee, he was building multifamily units that exploited these loopholes, that actually did some of the things we were explicitly trying to do away with. He for example, would come up with fake windows. I mean, there are all kinds of things like that that were going on. For some people, it's very difficult to think that there's anything wrong with something that puts $1 in their pocket.
Playing fast and loose with the facts helped Kemp's political rise.
Small business owner.
It began with his run for state senate in a swing district with many black voters. So Kemp ran ads claiming his family fought segregation.
Former Senator Julian Cox, Brian Kemp's grandfather, boldly voted to integrate the University of Georgia. Those are the values that Brian Kemp was raised on.
When the record was completely different, They came up with a scheme that Mr. Cox supported, a scheme to essentially privatize the public school. State-sponsored, state-supported privatization of segregation.
Kemp's unleashing Pam Reardon and the posse of vigilante voter challenges ran into a problem. Their first attempt to challenge voters was rejected by local elections boards. So Kemp added an extraordinary provision to SB 202. Kemp gave himself the right to remove any local elections commissioner that rejects the challenges. Helen Butler runs the voting rights organization that was founded by the Reverend Joseph Lowry. She was placed on the elections board for her expertise.
I was a member of the Board of Elections. I had been on the board since 2010, and I was on until June of 2021.
She is Mrs. Vote in Georgia. She's the one who taught me everything I know about voter registration and voter mobilization.
Civil rights attorney Gerald Griggs, famed for bringing R. Kelly to justice, is now president of the Georgia NAACP.
And they removed her?
Yes.
Why?
They removed her because, again, the provisions of SB 202 allow for a state takeover of local election boards. Another reason why we're suing.
They wanted people that were not as vocal as we were, wanted to make sure that they had total control of the Board of Elections.
Helen asked questions, and when Kemp didn't answer, she and reporter Palast won a federal court order forcing Kemp to open his voter purge files. Griggs was their attorney.
So you think it was retribution?
I mean, they won't say it's retribution, but what other reason would you take over that election board and remove Helen?
They wanted to make sure to silence our voice, because the Board of Elections, as I said, they determine who gets registered, when they get registered, how they get registered, whether your vote counts, when it counts, how it counts, and we get to certify the election.
So who are they that you said they didn't want?
My board, county board of commissioners, who happen to be majority Republican.
Removing skeptical experts from elections boards lets Kemp, once again, choose his own voters and count his own votes. And dangerously, it opens the door to overturning the presidential vote in 2024.
Trump said to the Secretary of State, find me 11,000 votes. How do you find those 11,000 votes?
Well, to find those 11,000 votes, you either have to have the members of the boards of elections who will not certify the elections and say, no, I think we can disqualify these amount of votes. Well, I'm not going to be a party to that. Whatever the voter intent was, that's what it is.
Griggs suggested that the Justice Department shoot back at the vigilantes with the post-Civil War Ku Klux Klan Act, which makes intimidating a voter a prison time offense.
You said the Ku Klux Klan law, 1871.
Yes.
Okay, it's well over, it's a century and a half.
But we're in the middle of the new Jim Crow 2.0. And so we have to use the same means that we used against black codes and Jim Crow to now deal with Jim Crow 2.0, because there is a feeling in this country that certain people, by mere race or ethnicity or gender, are not as fundamentally American and thus not entitled to the protections of American civil rights. So we have to use those civil rights protections to continue to grow access to the franchise, which is why we've used a code that's almost 130-something years old.
And so what we see is a consistency with Kemp, creating mechanisms to actually lift up the violence that has been inflicted on African-American communities. We can even talk about the signing of Senate Bill 202 that was passed shortly after the election in Georgia, where we were able to put these two new senators, an African-American and a Jewish man, in office, after we were able to, the state flipped to be a Democratic state. That what we saw immediately coming out of that was a legislative session where they passed this bill, Senate Bill 202. In that bill, it is filled with violence.
For what? Under arrest for what?
And at the same time, right outside of the room, when a duly elected official who had every right to be at the signing of a bill.
Why are you arresting her?
She actually was dragged out as if she was a criminal, as if she wasn't human. If you go back to the bill signing, what you will see Governor Kemp sitting under a painting of a plantation. What is more violent than the image of a plantation where people were killed, maimed, stolen, sold, dehumanized, right? And flanked by all white men, as if that is in any form or fashion representative of the state of Georgia.
Kemp's family, if you know, had several such plantation houses. But that old cotton-picking wealth has transformed into a company Kemp calls Plantation Partners LLC, part of a portfolio of private forests. He'll cut down these trees for Koch Industries to turn it all into toilet paper.
The governor values this little toilet paper farm at $2.2 million. He's got a lot of others.
Kemp's family was once one of the largest plantation owners in Georgia. Roswell Mills was the manufacturing heart of the Confederate war machine. Where Kemp's ancestors made the gray uniforms known as Roswell Gray. And here is one of their grand manor houses. Even the toys taught the children the difference between their happy lives and the lives of those they owned. But to find the original source of their wealth, you have to travel to the humid Savannah coast. Georgia's plantation system was created by the first governor of Georgia in Kemp's family, James Habersham. Habersham became one of the wealthiest men in the South by transforming agriculture. That is, he was first to import captured Africans into Georgia. Sales boomed, even when some of his products committed suicide or died of smallpox on the slaver ships.
We've been brought up thinking that slavery was always just here in Georgia. That just ain't so. In fact, until just before the Revolutionary War, slavery was against the law because churchgoers like these fought a fierce, bloody battle to prevent slaves from coming to Georgia.
The horrified local farmers who attended this church unanimously petitioned the king to stop the importation of enslaved people. They wrote, "It is shocking to human nature that any race of mankind and their posterity should be sentenced to perpetual slavery." Thomas Jefferson, although a friend of the Habershams, threatened their human trafficking business. Here, at the Habersham Savannah Mansion, Jefferson wrote a draft of the Declaration of Independence, including a long passage that denounced the slave trade. Slavery is a war against human nature itself, violating its most sacred rights of life and liberty by captivating and carrying Africans into slavery and miserable death. It was the only passage of the Declaration removed by the Continental Congress on the demand of the Georgia delegation, headed by Joseph Habersham. A British visitor, Fanny Kemble, wrote in her diary about the cruelty she witnessed by the notorious slaver, Kemp's ancestor, Roswell King.
The handcuff, the lash, the tearing away of children from parents, of husbands from wives, the labor of body, the despair of mind, the sickness of heart. These are the realities which belong to the system in this country of yours which boasts itself the asylum of the oppressed, the home of freedom.
Ultimately, the families were sold in the largest auction of humans in history. It is remembered today by their great-grandchildren as weeping time. Griffin Lotson directs the Geechee Gullah ring shouters. They preserve their Gullah language and songs from Africa's rice coast, and they brought rice planting technology to the South.
Wow.
Lotson's great-grandmother was sold at the Weeping Time auction.
The phrase that they call weeping time came from the largest slave trade in America's history. Most of those enslaved came from right here on Butler Island.
There's a defiant purpose in preserving this plantation and songs of his Gullah Geechee heritage.
If you suppress the history, you suppress the vote. Yeah, I know a lot about the voter suppression firsthand.
City Councilman Lotson would have been commissioner, but ballots were suspiciously disqualified.
And I lost by 1 vote.
Oh.
1 vote. So you can't just talk about somebody, you know somebody that you're standing with now that have lost an election by 1 vote.
So how do you say vote suppression in Gullah Geechee?
Oh, vote suppression. My mother would say, there's a dead cat on the line when it comes to voting, which the meaning of that is that something's not right.
So Palast headed to Savannah, where tourists drink cocktails at the riverboat dock. But underneath, you'll find the hidden storage cells where the Habershams kept Africans for auction. At the Georgia Historical Society, Palast met with an expert on the origin of dead cats on the line.
And so the central political issue of Reconstruction was, will black people, black men, be given the right to vote? The Klan originally came about as sort of the military arm of the Democratic Party. It was there to suppress voters. It wasn't just there to carry out intimidation against black people who used to be slaves. You know, they would pull a man out of his bed and say, we heard that you plan to vote. Is that true? Well, yes. And he might be whipped to within an inch of his life. It was really about suppressing the vote more than just intimidating.
After the Civil War, it wasn't only the Klan that meted out vigilante justice. Our modern vigilante tells us about his hero, Doc Holliday.
He was a very educated and kind of a classy guy. One of the things that happened, they liked to go to swim and found out there was about 5 or 6 African-American boys down there swimming, and it really upset John Henry, so he got a shotgun and ran them off. And of course, part of the story is he ran them off with a shotgun. The other story is that he killed a couple of them.
Major Turner, if you could pull up a chair. So tomorrow you're gonna meet this. You're gonna meet this guy.
He doesn't know he's gonna meet you. He doesn't know he's at your house. The house he says you don't live at and that you don't vote from. He doesn't know anything except that he's gonna do his little Southern shtick. But then he'll meet you. What would you hope? What would you hope would happen when you meet this man?
Simple. I'm sorry.
I did not fully understand the impact of what I was doing. Whether it's voting or a challenge like that, or whether or not it's someone coming in our churches and killing our people, we have to be the ones to do the forgiving.
I take it you've never been in this house. If you met Mr. Turner, Major, before?
All right, no, sir, never have, but I'm glad to meet him today.
You had filed some challenges to 4,000 voters.
Yes.
Yeah, and including, by the way, you have challenged the right to have Major Turner's ballot counted.
No, I don't know what that means.
Well, did you send a note to any of those people?
No, I did not.
I'll ask you a question. Here's Major Turner.
Mm-hmm.
Did you contact Major Turner and tell him,
no, I did
listen,
not.
I'm challenging your vote?
No, I did not.
My country called and asked me to go help them out in California. I have not missed any opportunities to vote from 1996 since I've been here up until this last election.
Do you want to apologize to this man for what he went through?
I don't. What I will do, Major, I apologize for the problems that you had. I don't know how I can apologize for the process because obviously I don't understand the complete process. So I don't know how I can apologize for that.
The law says we have to vote. Nobody said we had to count the vote. Or have vote counted. It's the same. I just go through the process. I or none of my people have any assurance that that vote was actually counted.
And now, a black voter's ballot getting counted is in more danger because of the impact of 2,000 mules.
We took a look at our 242 mules in Atlanta. So again, this is not grandma out walking her dog. These are, violent criminals sometimes.
Donald Trump called it the greatest and most impactful documentary of our time. And Trump is correct. Millions of MAGA believers bought into True the Vote's hysteria, leading to new laws nearly eliminating ballot drop boxes in 16 states, including swing states Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Georgia. In 2024, vigilante challenges spread out of Georgia like a virus. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, GOP vigilantes have already challenged 16,000 voters. Vigilante groups with names like Pigpen Project are operating in Nevada, Iowa, and we tracked vigilantes in swing state Michigan, where challenges have risen by 55%. In Florida, Trump's lawyer Cleta Mitchell has already challenged 10,000 voters. In Wisconsin, 135,000 voters were challenged. We mapped the challenges and discovered they were almost all in black precincts of Milwaukee and aimed at students at the University of Wisconsin.
And if I get taken off the voter rolls, it's just not fair. So if I'm living in Wisconsin, I would love to have my vote be counted.
And the biggest threat comes from True the Vote, the 2,000 Mules crew. In their test run in Georgia, they had 88 vigilante volunteers. In 2024, True the Vote has signed up 40,000 vigilantes, attacking in 43 states. By August, they'd already challenged 851,000 American voters. And in Arizona,
those vigilantes showed up with their weapons and their drones. They had drones going over polling sites, monitoring people, like policing people, and employees scared to go into their office. We sent our teams out to make sure that they would be okay. So when you're showing up at a polling location in militarized or military-looking uniforms, vests, goggles, and with weapons, or just posting out in front of these boxes, you are trying to intimidate folks who have experienced a history and a legacy of violence.
That's the QAnon shaman, whose horns have been clipped. just got out of prison.
We can't get security on our streets until we reform and secure our elections.
One quick question. They stop people from monitoring the drop boxes. What do we do about that?
Oh, we need to get rid of the drop boxes.
And in Texas, the vigilantes got violent.
He said, "Help me, with his hand inside his coat. Then when I tried to help him, he pulls out a gun. That is when I was told to get on the ground."
Court records show Aguirre believed Zuniga was driving his work truck around with 750,000 illegal ballots inside. When police got to the scene, they found air conditioning parts inside. No illegal ballots.
The accusation was that I masterminded this scheme to go and forge all of these mail-in ballots.
At 8 seconds each, it'd be about, I don't know, about 200 years to do that. So it's amazing. You forged all those ballots. So tell me about how you forged the ballots.
First of all, I'm too lazy to sign hundreds of thousands of ballots. I'd be nuts. A vigilante stopped this air conditioning repair guy, said that he was a police officer, had the guy on the ground, telling him open up the truck, had his pistol out on the guy. I mean, I can imagine how terrorized he was.
The gunman was not a lone wolf. He was one of dozens of armed vigilantes hired by an election-denying billionaire.
Was arraigned on felony charges of unlawful restraint and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon in connection with a badly botched, privately bankrolled investigation of alleged election fraud.
There were people outside my home with signs one day saying, "Stop the steal." So one idiot is out there with a rifle on his shoulder. So no, there's a real fear of it. I take the security now. It's a real concern. I mean, the level of vitriol out there, it's just amazing.
Ellis was a target because, during COVID, the commissioner was about to mail out ballots to all voters in Houston. He was blocked by the Texas Attorney General, who crowed that
Harris County mail-in ballots that they wanted to send out were 2.5 million, and we were able to stop every one of them. Had we not done that, Donald Trump would have lost the election.
And back in Georgia, in 2024, they passed a new law giving even more power to vigilante vote challengers.
So I fully expect 2024 to be the wild, wild west when it comes to election challenges. So if there was 180,000 challenge before, I'm looking at more, maybe 300 to 400,000. So they'll have unlimited voter challenges both before and after the election. So vigilantes are going to be out in mass. Yes, they want to make it easier to challenge and harder to vote.
Why is Georgia always seem to be creating the blueprints for vote suppression?
Well, we are the Deep South. We are the place where the Southern strategy began, both Georgia and Alabama. The new Southern strategy is beginning here.
In the 1960s, the GOP's Southern strategy included Operation Eagle Eye, challenging Black and Hispanic voters right in the polling station.
You may have heard of something called Operation Eagle Eye. Well, a better name for it would be Operation Evil Eye. One of its objectives is to frighten you and others by frivolously challenging your right to vote. It has been launched in nearly every state in the Union.
Eagle Eye recruits also patrolled certain wards of the city in mobile units equipped with two-way radios, ready to pounce on the nearest irregularity.
Spanish-speaking neighborhoods, go ahead. Southbound Alaska. W9HGX Mobile is on the way with the Eagle crew.
Eagle Eye has returned as Eagle AI, utilizing artificial intelligence to modernize Klan-style challenges. A group of wealthy Christian nationalists has launched Operation Checkmate, a secret plan to use Eagle AI to challenge 280,000 voters in Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, and Wisconsin.
They said that my address was a problem with my address, which it shouldn't be because I'm in the same county.
The issue was black voting. whites figured out that there were other less violent ways to achieve the same ends. And the 15th Amendment, which expressly forbid anyone being kept from voting because of their color. Well, how do you get around that? Later in the Jim Crow period, of course, you've got the infamous jelly bean jar. If you were able to guess how many jelly beans are in the jar, then you can vote. When white people come in to register, you never ask them for their poll tax receipt. You don't ask them to read the Constitution. That's exclusively done to black people.
The 15th Amendment's protection of black voting rights came to an end when in 1876, Southern white Democrats cut a deal with Northern Republicans to have Congress overturn the presidential election.
When the election of 1876 took place, the eventual winner, who was Rutherford B. Hayes, who was a Republican, was behind in the popular vote, and he was also behind in the Electoral College. So competing slates of electors, Democrats and Republicans, it was going to be up to Congress to decide which of those was legitimate.
The election came down to one man, as it would a century and a half later.
And this man was going to single-handedly decide who the president was going to be. We saw Mike Pence in that situation recently, who said one man shouldn't decide the presidency.
I need to speak to you for a second.
Okay.
You're not going to believe this. It's insane. It's crazy. They heard the word Mike Pence. They stopped the whole interview. They said, we can't film. And they said, you know, we got to protect our new corporate donors on our board.
Welcome to the 2022 Trustees Gala.
We're especially grateful for the support of Chick-fil-A, the Home Depot Foundation.
A who's who of Georgia's corporate elite, whose histories are protected by the Georgia Historical Society.
Georgia Power. That's the company where I did an investigation of racketeering, political bribery and corruption, and suspected murder. Nice guys. So this is the guy.
Yeah, got to protect them. CEO of Georgia Pacific.
You know, that's Koch Industries, Koch brothers.
Ladies and gentlemen, to induct the 2022 Georgia Trustees, please welcome...
Oh, God.
And here's the man who appointed them all.
The Honorable Brian Kemp.
Governor Brian Kemp is preparing to sign a number of bills into law that will impact every student across the state.
Yeah, it does a few things here. It would speed up the process to ban books, make it easier
House Bill 1084 bans the teaching of divisive concepts. It ensures all of our state and nation's history is taught accurately.
No child in Georgia will have to learn that the Klan elected their governors. No child in Georgia will have to learn that Mr. Kemp's wealth came from Africans brought here in chains. Or watch this film in school. Kemp was not the first to threaten teachers for teaching history.
As president, I was proud to issue the world's first ban on critical race theory in September of 2020.
Which Biden revoked his first day in office. Following Georgia, other states are passing so-called divisive concept laws. Notably, states that passed new vote suppression laws.
The dynasties that have ruled America are not about to give up their rule. It's about their power and their privileges. And they're not going to let voters take it away. And they're prepared to stop those voters by any means necessary.
It hurts me, it bothers me when someone says, it doesn't matter whether I vote or not. I'm just worried.
Our nation is witnessing a merciless campaign to wipe out our history, defame our heroes, erase our values, and indoctrinate our children.
Law enforcement is going to the
their houses and places of employment and making people afraid to go out and exercise their rights.
Open and clear, we have a visual. Repeat, we have a visual.
And today to come out and not be able to vote, it bothers me to my core.
Whose vote? My vote, not his.
We're seeing, Civil War Part 2.
Time to do something. Time to do something. If we don't get it back in November.
The good news is that there's a new South rising. There is a new South rising. We're building a base of people who actually believe in America that is more just and more equitable, that is literally going to make a shift.
We are a new generation from the ones who have come before. He's calling us into freedom. Let my people go. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God said it's gonna trouble the water.
I got to see some of the worst and ugliest aspects of America, at the same time some of the greatest. I got to see people that had nothing eventually have something. I got to see what Martin said when he said little black boys and little white girls walk hand in hand together. They're getting married now. The face of our nation, the thought process is changing. Yes, there are those that resent this, but that too shall pass. We just have to know that as a nation, we're stronger and better than all of that.
Water used to come through here high, real high. They would throw blacks over here. I do believe that the spirits is crying out for justice from the grave. I say when I grow up, I would like to come here and try to dig up those bones of those black folk and give them a proper burial.
But spirits drowned will rise. America is a haunted house, and our ruling dynasties have gone to war with its ghosts, the ghosts of our history. Until America hears these spirits, neither they nor we will be set free.
I think it's easier to stand up.
And we'll take your questions, and Rich, you can ask them or answer them yourself. And for those watching online, just put your questions in the chat. So you have a again, thanks to the Universalist Unitarian Church and Reverend Beth for being wonderful hosts here tonight. Make sure you grab some popcorn on your way out. Here we go. Give them to Richard.
All right. Well, yeah, there's a lot. So yeah, you
shift through them.
I think I can talk about. First of all, thank you all for coming out, and again, an applause for Greg Palast. It's not easy. Greg travels all over the country to not only present Vigilantes and the other work that he's done, but just to bring awareness to this ongoing problem that we have in the country when it comes to voter suppression. And there's so much that's going on right now in our country. As you guys know, if you listen to anything on WCPT, I am the host of Choose Views from 6 to 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. I try to make, thank you, I try to make the show as informative as I possibly can. I'm blessed to have some great people that I work with. Joan Esposito, Patty Vasquez. We do the live shows. Some of the other ones are Stephanie Miller is out in California, and she comes on after me, and Tom Hartman in the afternoon, Edwin Eisendrath on the weekends. Tomorrow we'll be doing a moderation of the candidates that are running for Senate, Krishnamurthy, Kelly, and Stratton. The reason I'm saying all that is, in relationship to Greg, is that we've known each other for 8 years now, and he always shows up with the passion that's needed right now when it comes to what we're all facing. So let me set the table this way. Every time I watch Vigilantes, there's a handful of emotions that go through me. One of them is the history that my father taught me. When I'll be 64 in April, and the reason I'm sharing that with you is I remember vividly in the back of my father and mother's station wagon driving from Chicago to Meridian, Mississippi. And as I got older, my father would take me to Philadelphia, Mississippi. Has anybody seen the movie Mississippi Burning? Okay, he would take me there to help me understand what our history is. And when I say our history, I mean our American history. So this month of Black History, as I say every day on my show, this is American history. It's not just about black folks, it's about all of us. And Vigilantes makes that clear. It's about all of us. This is American history. So before I get to the questions, the thing that I would like to ask of everybody, two things. Share this movie with everybody you know and that you don't know. Because in November, this will be on steroids. I'm not a hyperbolic person. My mother taught me not to be that way. I'm just telling you, from the child, 2 generations from enslaved ancestors, that what you saw in this movie will be on steroids this November. I promise you that. The Trump administration will use that $170 billion appropriated to ICE to tamper with our election. They will have ICE agents at polling places, and they won't have them at places where it's just folks that, like me, just gentlemen, and these 2 folks here. They're going to have them at places that look like you. And you want to know why they're going to have them at places that look like you? Because they want to then find out if you are associating with people that look like me. So for all of my Caucasian brothers and sisters here tonight, that's what they're going to do. I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm telling you that is what they will do. The game is different this time around. So me saying that and coming back to you sharing this movie with everybody you know and that you don't know is so that they can be aware of the fact that they're not just coming for folks that look like me. They're coming for this couple right here in the middle, the gentleman with the mask and the lady with the glasses on neck. I'm telling you this, this wonderful gray-haired grandma right here. They're coming for you too. I promise you that. So what we have to do collectively, and for a black man to be standing here to tell you this, that they're not just coming for me, they're coming for y'all. It's from that experience that my father shared with me when I was a little boy, taking me to the hanging trees outside of Philadelphia, Mississippi. And to think that at 64 in April, that I would be fighting this fight now, you have no idea how much every single day I go through two emotions: extraordinary sadness and hellified anger. Excuse me, Lord, for saying that in your church. But I say that with a certain amount of joy in terms of the fight we have to be willing to stand up for. If we actually believe in this thing that we call democracy, we have to be willing to fight. I got to fight for you, sir, as much as you got to fight for me. And no more the point in our lifetimes has that meant more than it means right now. So I ask you guys to ask yourself, is it worth it to fight for it and to deal with the stress that will come from it? If it isn't, then step aside and let others step into the fight. But I believe that all of us here know that it's worth the fight. Okay? All right. How or what can be done with the possibility that ICE agents might... I hadn't read that one yet. There is literally nothing that we can do other than, and this is the smartest thing to do, it's the easiest thing to do, I say this sometimes on the show. You know, who gets up every morning and goes for a walk or goes to the gym or something like that, where you get up and do some exercise, with some version of it. So set aside 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, every day, just like you do. You schedule your workout or your fitness or whatever. Schedule 30 minutes to call every single one of your representatives. That's the first. Everybody can do that. It really doesn't cost you anything. You probably got a pretty decent cell phone package, you know, reasonably, as expensive as it is. Call your congresspersons. Call your federal and call your state representatives. Put it into your calendar as something you do a couple times a week. They need to know every day that we are watching them. And I don't care, to be honest with you, we can call our Democratic, meaning the D side, the left side, elected officials. But I think it will be even more effective to call those that are on the right, to let them know that there's a reason that they lost that state election in Texas. You follow me? So one of the things that we can do is to call and let them. Okay. All right. Is to call every day. Budget, or if not every day, sit down tonight and say for next week, the second full week of February, I'm going to budget time to call somebody. Call governors. Call Kemp's office. Call Abbott's office. Call what's the boy in Texas? Florida. DeSantis. Okay? Okay. We're filming. Sir, you have a question. Okay. There's been, for lack of better words, there's been comments that they don't or they won't if you're not part of the district. But I would rather than tell you something incorrect, try and find out. Make the call. If they don't take it, move on to the next. So I'll go back to I'm a financial advisor prior to having this, blessed with having this radio show. And I still am, still licensed and all that good stuff. One of the things that I always did was create lists so that if I had, call this person, go to the next, go to the next, go to the next. Some will, some won't, so what, next. So create a list of who you're gonna call. You can go online, you can print out whichever group of elected officials you want to. And if they don't take your call, go to the next. Your voices, our voices, have to be heard. Okay, so set yourself up for success by creating a list of who you're gonna call. And that may help you then go, okay, they didn't take my call, let me go to the next. Ma'am?
Let me get Bob in here. Okay, I also want to recognize that we have great journalist here, Chinta Strasberg. Would you stand up, Chinta? Okay, here she is. Okay, thank you. And also, VON fellow, Robert McKay of VON, the Talk of Chicago, and he has a question from the audience to read.
I have here a question someone submitted. Has the situation in Georgia improved?
Okay. Hello, where have you been this week? They just raided the election office in Fulton County, and that is at the heart of Blacklanta, Georgia. Things have gotten worse, and what's worse than what's happening in Georgia, which is their target, because it is, as you know, it's the swingiest state out there. They got to eliminate John Ossoff, who won, just like Latasha Brown of Black Voters Matter said. They elected a Jewish and black senators, both progressive Democrats. This is in supposed redneck Georgia, because they were, what happened is people were allowed to vote those drop boxes. That whole story of 2,000 mules, where they were saying that the drop boxes were being stuffed by black men. I just will have you know that the Republican officials went through every single one of those ballots, about 70,000 in Fulton, in the drop boxes. Every single one was legitimate. There's a barcode on each one, by the way. It's identified with you. And those votes, not one forged ballot, not one double ballot, not one ballot not identified with an active voter. They're trying to use that because those drop boxes were the core of the victory that we have, because the African American community, about 70% vote early. Drop boxes are crucial. So they shut down those drop boxes almost completely. And you heard states from that 2,000 mules, that's what they're going after, drop boxes. And the other thing that's happening, they're taking those ballots and it's something against the SAVE database, which is the list of people who were deported. If anyone voted or is registered who was deported. Now, they did this once before with the SAVE database, the deportees database. And guess what? In Florida, where they used that database, they eliminated 180,000 voters. 180,000 voters, because believe it or not, they found someone who was deported named Jose Garcia and a Linda Rodriguez. And so they took every Jose Garcia and Linda Rodriguez and canceled their registrations. Now, were any guilty? Was there an alien? Were there thousands and millions of alien voters, as Trump claims? Out of 180,000 people who lost their vote, there was one that they convicted of illegally voting, by the way, an Austrian Republican. So it's gotten worse in Georgia. They're going after Georgia. That's why they seized those files from the drop boxes. It's not about 2020. It's about 26 and 28. And it's gone, spread, as I was trying to make the point in the film, it's spread out of Georgia like a virus. They always test drive their vote suppression techniques there. So it's worse, but I just want to say one quick thing. They can't steal all the votes all the time. They can't steal all the votes all the time. Do you have another question to ask or answer?
What you got? Okay. If you were teaching a civic education class using your film as a case study, what lessons would you want future local leaders to take away from it? That's for you.
Okay. The answer is, first of all, if you're in a Georgia school or an Oklahoma school or there's Texas school, the teacher would lose their job if they know. Because you heard about these laws passed in states, including Florida, that are basically, they call them anti-CRT, anti-critical race theory. But what it is if you're uncomfortable, if you have a parent whose little Johnny says he was uncomfortable seeing the history of Georgia, that their own governor's wealth comes from instituting slavery in Georgia. They started slavery in Georgia. It was illegal, remember. And they're spared from learning this. They're spared from learning that Governor Abbott of Texas, you can't see this film, Governor Abbott of Texas family, they were plantation slave owners. So the answer is that in a lot of states, you can't see the film in the schools. That includes universities, libraries, whatever. So you, as Richard says, let's get it out. I just want to say one thing. Go to gregpalast.com, where you can watch the film for gratis. Thank you, Jamie Foxx and Leonardo DiCaprio, who funded that. Or you can just go to YouTube, write in Vigilantes Inc, Palast, and you can stream the film, get the word out. As Richard says, this film, yeah, I like it that it has its entertaining elements, but it's a weapon, it's a fighting document.
Thank you, Greg. All right. What are Dems doing to make citizens aware of voter suppression? So I go back to my initial comment about getting this film out by any means necessary. That's one of the things that we can do. We can't, I want to be optimistic about this. I don't, and not point fingers. I don't want us to put it in the laps of the 214 members of Congress that are Democrats in the House and the 48 senators. I don't want it to be in their laps. I want it to be in ours. So one of the challenges that we have, but also an opportunity, is to take responsibility and control. And we get the information out. We talk about it. We make sure that people know about it. Imagine how many of us, let's say it's 100 of us here, 100 of us here. Imagine if each of us made a list of 5 people that we know that are not here in Illinois, but are in a state that voted red in this last election, federal. And we were able to get this movie, each of us got it to 5 people. That's 500 folks in a blink of an eye. How many members of Congress do we have? 535, right? So combination of contacting our elected officials and us doing the work is probably more powerful than what the Dems can do, because let's be honest, the Dems are right now, unfortunately, they're distracted by other things that are going on as it relates to legislation, as it relates to tariffs, et cetera. So I would say that what we can do as leading voices in ourselves is take control of that narrative. Does that make sense? Okay. Ma'am, you had a question before we went. What you got? Okay, how can we counter these voter suppression vigilantes? In my opinion, it's what I've said already. It's not so much countering, it's taking action. Because they're going to, here's the thing, they're going to do what they're going to do. So it's not so much about us stopping what they're going to do, I think. It's more about us taking action to do the things that we know we can do. Nobody in this room can be prevented from connecting. Here's a good example. None of us are teachers in Georgia right now, right? Okay, so why don't we send the information to those that are in states that are going to be directly impacted by what's happening? Why don't we, to the best of our ability, call red district congressional leaders and get on them about what they need to do? I think that that's a more effective tool, but that's not to say that we still don't want to make sure that because what happens with that is it's highlighted what they're doing. A lot of people don't know about this movie, but more importantly, they don't know about what's inside of the movie, what vigilantes are doing. How many people in here knew that? I knew this, and I'm going to drop something on you guys in a second. How many people in here, before seeing this, knew the history of Brian Kemp and his lineage to enslavement in this country? Honestly. 4 people, 5 people. Okay? Did you all know that 2 generations back, Mitch McConnell's family was also enslavers? So when we talk about what we do, it's about bringing, because 3 people, 5 people in this room knew about Brian Kemp. I knew about Brian Kemp. I should, as a black person in America, I should know about every person that's an enslaver or that's tied to enslavement. And that's kind of a pretty good tip on where they are. So that's what we have to do. We have to point out who those people are. Bob, you agree with that? That's the strongest thing we have going for us. So it's kind of walking and chewing gum at the same time. Let's get to another question. How can voter eligibility challenges be known and combated? How can voter eligibility challenges be? Okay, so that's a question that kind of leans itself into the legal. Mark Elias is a person you guys should look up and follow and reach out to, okay? He is one of the voices in that space of dealing with voter eligibility challenges. He's better, he knows more about that part than I can stand here and try to make something up. So what I would suggest in that space is to reach out to Mark Elias's office, find him, follow him on social media, whatever you have to do to contact him, to ask him what can be done, what are we doing structurally to affect the challenges that are going to take place, and that did take place in the last election. How do you get involved with the project? With you mean Greg's work? Well, you answer that.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't make movies, I support movements. And you saw the people I work with. Now, you understand that team there. Gerald Griggs, president of the NAACP, is my lawyer. Black Voters Matter Fund founder, Latasha Brown. Reverend Jesse Jackson and Rainbow Push, his lawyer, C.K. Hoffler, we went into federal court in Georgia. So we did take action. And we've got some successes, and we then, 2 steps forward, a step back. In fact, I was, and we were represented on these challenges by Fred Gray, who was Rosa Parks' lawyer. He showed up in court for us on his 90th birthday. So if he can do that, what are you doing? So first thing you're going to do is check your registration. Everyone can check it online, and especially tell the people in those red states and those, especially the purple states in Wisconsin and others, check your registration, see if you've been challenged, see if you've been purged. Now, we did have, so also work with Rainbow Push here, tremendous organization, Black Voters Matter Fund. You know, I worked with the Reverend Jesse Jackson on fighting that system that you saw, cross-check, where they matched names. They had, 288 James Browns in Georgia that lost their vote. Now, we and Chris Kobach, Trump's guy who put that system together, well, with Rainbow Push and the ACLU, political action and court action, that thing was terminated. So we do win some. Here's the bad news. The executive order came down from Agent Orange, who said that Doge, which still exists, my friend, that Doge has the right to get all of the voting files so they can restore, cross-check, and start eliminating voters named Rodriguez and Jackson and Johnson, and you know what that's about. So we can win some and we fight, but please join these organizations. Stay informed. Go to gregpalast.com. Sign up for my reports that I do for Guardian, Raw Story, Tom Hartman Show, and with Richard and Bob and Chinta. And so what I want to do is make sure that you don't leave here saying, oh, that's a shame. No, leave here saying, what am I going to do next? And we join hands together, links on the chain. They can't steal all the votes all the time, and that's the key.
All right, so to that point, here's a question, and then it ties back to something that Greg just said. How can we protect our vote? I've heard Greg say register, re-register, and re-register again. Absolutely. So here's a question by show of hands. How many people here know you're registered to vote? Okay, me too. You think so? Right. So this is a thing that you can do, we all can do, is to make sure that we check again and check again. But even bigger than that, by a show of hands, how many people here how many folks here have a relative or a friend that lives in a southern red state? We could say Georgia, we could say Texas, Florida. How many? Half of the room, 2/3 of the room. So what do you need? This is where we take control, y'all. What should we be doing with that information? Reaching out to the folks there and saying, are you sure you're registered to vote? Do you follow what I'm saying? So create that list of family and friends in those red states, and in the next, again, business plan. Your new business plan is how I'm gonna task myself with having direct impact. So the folks that you know that are in other states, red states in particular, where this garbage is going on, you want to reach out to them and say, are you registered? And if not, help them if you need to, but stay on them about getting registered.
And check your registration. Make sure
And check that they check their registration. Exactly. And that's a big part of this is, you know, again, we can ask our elected officials all day long, and we should, and we want to take action ourselves. And just knowing people that are in other states that are dealing with this, and they're going to deal with it in a harder way than we are here in safe blue Illinois, reach out to those people. Put that on your list of things to do. There's one other thing I want to say about a question that was asked. I forgot to cover this. And this has to do with leadership in different states. There is a Democratic Party chair in every state in the country. In a month from now, I'll be in North Carolina with the Democratic Party holding a town hall with some state officials, and hopefully Roy Cooper will be there, who's running for U.S. Senate to replace Tom Tillis. So the reason I say all that is that was done organically. I had Anderson Clayton, who is the Democratic Party chair in North Carolina, on my show, and I said, you know, we should do something. In a month, we have a town hall. So the point of all that is, you also should put on the list of people to call every Democratic Party chair in all 50 states, red or blue. That's another group to call. When you talk about how do we impact, who do we talk to, how do we bring the, because Greg can only do so much. But imagine, just imagine, if in every state in the country, that movie, our movie, Greg's movie, is aired at a town hall by each of the 50 Democratic party chairs in the country. See the impact of that? That's us taking control, y'all. Sorry. How do we stop this? We've talked about that. What you got, Bob? The purging method looks illegal on its face. Have there been lawsuits? And this comes from YouTube. Question from someone on YouTube. There are ongoing lawsuits. I mean, Greg has been at the tip of the spear of pushing those and enforcing those. There's more to come, and I think part of what the calls allow us to do, it's to find out where there are problems in state systems, so that we know where to send our attorneys to enact those, to file those lawsuits. You see what I'm saying? So by calling, you may find out information that not everybody knows, so now we have an opportunity to turn that over to the Mark Eliases of the world to say, we got some problems here. We may need to send some of our legal support to this particular state. You guys follow what I'm saying? Question, sir.
Okay, the question was, is anyone using the phone banking to warn people if they've been challenged? Okay, just so you know, Black Voters Matter Fund, we helped them design and gave them a list to send out 80,000 postcards in just Georgia. Labor unions in Nevada I gave them the purge list to make calls to people. Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, a real grassroots Hispanic organization, made 150,000 phone calls to warn people that they have been removed from the voter rolls, that they have to re-register. This is vital to get those challenge lists, not always easy to do, get those challenge lists and then get a hold of those people, because you can tell people, go ahead and vote. They got to still be registered. You saw Martin Luther King's 92-year-old cousin thrown out of the polling station. She didn't think she had to, after 50 years at the same polling station, have to check her registration. Everyone, check your registration online. Go to vote.org. Check that out. But the big thing is, yes, if you can volunteer, we need people to call people to say, you need to re-register. Often people are shocked. I'm registered. What are you talking about? You know, so you have to, it is a tough thing to do. But in Georgia alone, of the 198,000 people, we got 100,000 back on the voter rolls, and that's why it turned blue. Okay, so, but now they're trying to do every trick in the book to stop it. But this is, unfortunately, the Georgia system has been spread all over America. So, yeah, we got a lot of work to do, and we can make calls from here into Wisconsin. You know, we can make calls from here to Michigan, Pennsylvania. These are those states where these challenges are going on, where they're cutting off the drop boxes, where they are purging voters. And at gregpalast.com, you can read an article called Trump Lost, Vote Suppression Won. I learned, got my degree in statistics and economics down in Hyde Park at the University of Chicago. And what I was able to do is calculate very carefully that 3.4 million votes were lost to Kamala Harris through vote suppression tactics. That was the election. If we get rid of vote suppression, we have a very different country. That's our job.
Okay, get another, what we got, Bob?
Thank you. Good evening. I have an article here where Trump administration removes memorial honoring people enslaved by George Washington. Now, during this campaign and one of the debates, it was accusing Donald Trump of being part of the Heritage Foundation or Project 2025. And this is their foundation. This is the statement in their foundation. Smithsonian to focus on how bad slavery was. President Donald Trump has instructed his lawyers to scour through America's museums and rid them of exhibits that he calls woke, specifically citing exhibits on slavery. And that's what the Heritage Foundation, they're getting rid of DEI. And this is Trump's platform while he's in office today. Every Sunday when I come on the air, I play Katrina Brown. Are you familiar with Katrina Brown? She did the documentary film for, can't think of it now, but anyway. She did a document on the slavery in the South and how her ancestors were trafficking over 12,000 slaves to this country, and how the immigrants coming in have leapfrogged over people who actually built it, who enslaved, and how the North benefited from it throughout this country. And I like to say I served in the military. I was in the U.S. Coast Guard, and I was commissioned the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Salmon Chase. Salmon Chase was an abolitionist. He was the governor of Ohio. He was a Supreme Court justice, and he also was the Secretary of the Treasury, which they named the cutters after. And he would go in the South, purchase slaves, and bring them north, and free them, and set them up to vote. So this has been going on for centuries, and this is a modern day version of what was going on back in the 17 and 1800s. Thank you.
So I don't know how much more time we have, but there are a few more things that I want to say about action and involvement. It's tough. I don't want to stand here and say that the work that we have in front of us is not tough or that it's easy per se. But we all have a stake in this. And obviously, folks that look like me have endured this for years and years and years. And I'll ask you this question that might seem a little bit odd, but it's one that I ask oftentimes when people get caught up in this conversation. There's probably not a person, for the folks who have lesser tan than I do here, there's probably not a situation where in the real world, your life has been negatively altered by the people that are being oppressed. Is that a fair statement? If I'm wrong, call me out. I'm totally fine with that. Do you follow what I'm saying? Your life probably hasn't been negatively altered by someone that looks like me. Reasonably fair statement. Not everybody, I'm just saying. But the people that are in power want you to think that it has been. And you know in your heart, no matter where you are when it comes to your faith or how you live your life, you know in your heart that's not true. Right? So don't let them cause you consternation about a lie that you know in your heart is not true. And allow that to be part of your motivation, which is, I'm not going to let somebody lie to me or cause me to think less of myself as a person a white person, because I favor unity. I favor balance. I favor connectedness, because that's what they're trying to do. They want to get in your psyche to get you to be behind and to endorse the oppression of people that haven't really caused you any harm. That's really what this is all about. And I break it down that way because I like to approach it from the alternate way of looking at it. It's really about having you feel less about yourself. I'll give you an example. I had a couple guys. I have two very, very dear friends that are gay. And we hang out a lot. And I had these two guys approach us at a restaurant. My good friend, who's African American, straight, and me were hanging out with two of our gay male friends. And these guys came up and approached us like, why are you hanging out with these F words? It's a true story. And you know what the word I'm using, but I'm okay. And my friend Rico and I looked at each other like, and we both turned to these two other guys and said, hold on a second. You got an issue with the fact that we have two gay friends and we're hanging out with them? The problem's not with us. How come y'all don't have some gay friends? Okay? It's a true story. So don't let these oppressors make you feel guilty about just doing what the universe asks, and that's for us all to be connected. You follow me? Let that be part of your motivation to go out and protect our democracy and to take back our humanity and to take back our dignity. Let that be a stronger emotion and driving force than fear of what they're trying to put on your laps. Okay? That's about all I have to say. I don't want to keep going. I know it's a late night. We got another question. I'm sorry. Please read this. Now I'm even more afraid the midterms will be stolen by this failed and failing president. Do you believe an energized blue tsunami can overcome the evil energy of the Vigilantes Inc. card? My answer is yes. Yes, but it's a simple answer. The question is, what is it that we're going to do to make sure that that happens? And it goes back to, again, kind of where I started, at least in my belief. I don't need to be right, but this is what I believe. That is, we have to take action, and we cannot allow it to just be in the laps of other people. And that's not me pointing fingers at anybody particularly. It's just saying we have so many tools that maybe we haven't energized yet, to use a wording in this card. Let's energize those tools that we have. And I'll put this in a positive. I could say don't be afraid. What I'd rather say to you guys is be encouraged. Be encouraged about what we can get done. Imagine what it would be like to be on the other side of this craziness. And you can look back and say, I fought real hard. I'm 75 years old. I was tired. I thought I was done fighting this fight. Okay, y'all with me? My sister's 75, and she said this to me when Roe v. Wade went down. She's like, Richard, I fought this when I was, in my 20s. And I know many of you folks here, men and women, but particularly the ladies, fought to say this. I see your body language right there. I see your body language. She reared back like, yep. But that's what you want to feel, is on the other side of this craziness, is that we look back yet once again as a country, as a society, and said, we beat them back. Okay?
All right, I want to thank you for coming out. I think Chinta has a... Wait, hang on.
So for those who don't know who you are, can you briefly tell us your name, your title, and the name of your show and when it airs? Because I'm going to circulate this and the film as well. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, again, my name is Richard Chu, and I am the host of Chu's Views radio show on WCPT, AM 820 here in Chicago. And my show airs Monday through Friday from 6 to 8 a.m. We're broadcast on all the social outlets, so we've been blessed to have people call from outside of the country to the show. But we are aired on Chicago's Progressive Talk, and I'm just proud and grateful to be able to host the show and be a part of this process. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And I'm Robert McKay. I host a program on WVON on Sunday evenings from 4 to 6 p.m. My original platform was to bring the vocational programs back into our public schools in Chicago because they have been diminished. And of course, the unions behind that, AFL-CIO, have demolished vocational education, which speaks to when vocational education began at Hampton Institute, educating the slaves coming off the plantations, and chartered in 1868. And of course, Booker T. Washington, who matriculated through that, chartered Tuskegee Institute on July 4th, 1881. And 36 years after that, the government decided to jump in creating the Smith-Hughes Act of 1917, mandating that vocations be taught in the public school system. Of course, we grew out of that into what we have diminished today. In Chicago, on the south side, we had Chicago Vocational, Dunbar Vocational High Schools, and they have been, the programs have been torn apart. And we need to attend the meetings at the school boards, city councils, because these are the people who have been elected, who've been put in, or selected, put in place to destroy these programs and destroy the youth education. Because now with robotics coming in, they're planning on eliminating people. And the voting process will be eventually, if we allow this to happen, do not get out and get these people out of office who are there. Of course, and there's an article where over 100 people are in Congress who are descendants of slave owners. There are 3 in the Supreme Court. Someone mentioned on one of the questions about, has this been challenged in the Supreme Court? These, because we perhaps preoccupied with the Super Bowl, World Series, to get more people indulging in that than we do in our local civic meetings. And civics, and someone asked about civics. Civics can counter this if we have our youth educated from birth up to now. And I understand that women can teach their children by reading while in the womb. Read some positive information, absolutely. So mamas, this is where you began, or grandmamas, you teach your daughters and granddaughters how to do this. Thank you.
Okay, I want to thank you for coming out, but before we close this up and thank Robert and Richard and Reverend Beth, very important, but I have problems with it. Okay, I'm sure there's many heroes in this audience, but one I have to call out. Kevin Patrick, please, the village president of Villa Park. And the reason I am mentioning him is that he wrote and got unanimous bipartisan passage of a bill which restrains ICE in Villa Park from acting like a Gestapo instead of our protectors. This was a gutsy move, and it's very important that it came out of a small white suburb. It doesn't have to, you know, they want to say that the only resisting are, you know, the urban population. What is the color of the urban population? You know it. But this is not a fight for the rights of Hispanics or black folk. It's about American rights. And when someone else loses their right, when someone else is gunned down in the streets, and that was, again, all about voting. The whole, get the voter rolls of Minnesota. You're going to, basically, your voter rolls are your lives. And so I have to call out Kevin Patrick's action, because he shows you that no matter where you are, we each have something we can do. And that's an inspiration. If that is, I don't know what is. So thank you so much. Tell people to walk Vigilantes Inc. Go to YouTube. Spread the word. Thank you so much. Good evening.
And again, I'd like to thank Mr. Greg Palast, our hero, for inviting me and Chenta Strasburg.
Please listen to my podcast every Friday, 7 p.m. on the Female Solution. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, and I'll be there too, on the air with her. Chenta Strasburg, one of our great treasures of Chicago. Oh, and at the end, at the back there, if you want to make a donation of $15, I'll sign a DVD of this film, give it to someone, send it to your library, run it through the schools. Thank you.